Penguin Random House Audio presents Stronger, the Untold Story of Muscle in Our Lives by Michael Joseph Gross. Read for you by Dan Warren. Note to listener. This audiobook includes a downloadable PDF which contains source notes from the printed book. For Steve, my fighter and my heart. In one moment of time, the winds are variable, blowing in different directions. Pindar, 7th Olympian Ode. Prologue. Croton, on the southeastern coast of present-day Italy, 6th century BC. In the grassy field, the man walked toward the grazing calf and picked it up. Small hooves swung slightly in the air, then came back down flat on the dirt. The rest of that day, and again the next, the calf kept grazing, filling up with grass, and the man walked across the field again, wrapped his arms around the calf again, hoisted it, and set it down again. Every day he lifted the calf until the calf became a bull, and the man became so strong that his tale still survives. The myth of Milo, the strong man of Croton. Milo was a real person, a 6-time Olympic victor in wrestling, the most celebrated athlete of antiquity. The tale about him and the calf is fiction, but in modern times, some have made the story true, or as true as it can be. One who makes the story true in the mid-1930s AD, is a teenager in Birmingham, Alabama. The young man, Thomas Lanier Delorme, falls ill. Doctors diagnose him with rheumatic fever, an inflammatory disease believed to weaken the heart, and they order him to rest. While spending 4 whole months in bed, to pass the time he reads a magazine, Strength and Health, full of facts about exercise and fables of strongmen, such as Milo of Croton. Inspired, he gets well enough to wander local junkyards searching for machine parts, and from the junk, he builds himself a barbell, and by lifting it, he gradually builds up his strength. The young man who grew strong by lifting weights becomes a doctor in the United States Army Medical Corps, and in 1944, he goes to work in a Chicago military hospital full of wounded soldiers. Orthopedic surgeons fix the soldiers' injured legs, but after surgeries, healing is slow. Can Dr. Delorme do something to help them heal faster? He has an idea, but it's risky. At a time when most mainstream doctors say weak muscles should never be challenged to work near their limit of strength, Thomas Delorme bucks the system. For rehab after surgery, he prescribes strenuous weight training, based on a technique of testing maximum exertion, or effort. And he prescribes weightlifting exercises in a standard dosage, which after several years of experiment, he will refine to this protocol. 3 sets of 10 repetitions, 4 times a week, lifting weights heavy relative to a person's maximal strength. The prescription works. It works so well that strength, in much scientific literature, comes to be defined as maximal force exertion. Years later, after the whole U.S. Army hospital system has adopted his technique, after his prescription has been used to rehabilitate polio patients, and it proves to be safe, feasible, and effective for women and men, adolescents and adults. After the doctor has retired from the Army, he reflects on his revolutionary treatment, giving credit where it's due. Glancing back through time, Delorme tips his cap to Milo. For centuries, it has been known that if a person lifts progressively larger loads, he writes, the muscles, in response to the work stimulus, will hypertrophy and increase in strength. Introduction. Lifting a calf, turning a page, and every other voluntary movement happens by means of muscle. No matter how you think of yourself, strong or weak, large or small, you are substantially made of muscle. Most adults are made up of at least 30% muscle. Many of us are closer to 40% muscle, and a few of us exceed 50%. Muscle is also one of the body's most plastic tissues, changing its size and properties based on people's habits of diet and care, work, and rest. Human skeletal muscle is a primary organ of metabolism, the chemical processes that sustain life. When a child is growing, when an adult is injured or sick, and as every body executes the constant processes of cellular wear and tear and repair, proteins in muscle do the work of generation, healing, and regeneration. Muscle contraction is the basis of an extensive signaling network in the body, too. Working muscles produce secretions called myokines that circulate to the brain, liver, heart, intestines, and other organ systems, regulating biological functions that make for thriving life. From early adolescence onward, the kind of muscular work shown in the myth of Milo and prescribed by Thomas DeLorme can yield a wealth of benefits. Progressive resistance exercise can build confidence and reduce anxiety, improve bone density, blood pressure, aerobic fitness, body composition, metabolic health, insulin sensitivity, depression, and sleep. Prevent and treat type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Reduce the risk of several types of cancer. Increase resistance to injury. And decrease the likelihood of falls and of osteoporotic fracture. In old age, muscle increasingly decides who can live independently and who cannot. Your ability to stand and go where you want to go, your independence, autonomy, and agency, your effectiveness in the world will depend on muscle to the last day of your life. In recent decades, we have all witnessed what can happen when people make a practice of lifting weights. The bodies of public figures in many fields have been transformed. Derek Jeter, Serena Williams, and Cristiano Ronaldo, Madonna, Beyoncé, and Taylor Swift, Marc Jacobs, Oprah Winfrey, and Jeff Bezos, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Michelle Obama, and Volodymyr Zelensky. At the same time, a related change has happened in the general population. Signs of the change emerge from almost 30 years of data collected by the Centers for Disease Control between 1988 and 2017 in surveys that asked American adults what forms of physical activity or exercise they spend the most time doing. Among more than 50 types of activities tracked by these surveys over that whole period, from bowling to fishing to running, the one that grew most popular most quickly was lifting weights. The number of people who said they lifted weights more often than they did other types of exercise increased by more than 34% in those years. But on the other hand, the absolute number of people who made lifting weights their main form of exercise remained low. That number grew barely more than 1% in 30 years, from 3.2% to 4.3% of the population. And national physical activity surveys in many countries find that vast majorities of people do little or no exercise of any kind that would strengthen their muscles. The truth is, few of us take much active interest in our own muscles, except for the young and athletic, whose interest tends to be tied to relatively short-term payoffs, winning games or dates or clicks. It can be easy to lose sight of muscle's importance in every stage and every function of the widest range of lives because muscle is easy to typecast. Just hearing the word muscle can trigger instant thoughts of bodybuilders or combat sport athletes like boxers and mixed martial artists, or elite soldiers in actual military combat, or influencers and models and movie stars exuding erotic privilege. For many people, the word muscle can sound inherently sinister.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?